welcome to the No Camps podcast. I'm Sunny G.
I'm Akash.
I'm Jason.
And in today's episode of the No Camps podcast, we want to talk to you about a beloved movie in all of our hearts called The Mummy. No, not The Mummy that just came out. We're talking about the original Mummy. Nah, but for real, guys, we're going to talk about both. It's going to be great.
It'll be great.
So we, as you guys may know, like the new Mummy, I think just came out on Blu-ray or DVD, and I've been seeing a little bit of advertisement for that, so I thought, hey, let me check it out. And I think on a previous episode, Sonny, you talked about the new Mummy, right? And how much you loved it. Is that true?
Yeah, I remember that. I think I remember that.
No, I'm kidding. Anyways, so we thought we'd do a little exercise here for a podcast. We're doing a thing called Reboots and Remakes, where we talk about the original and then we dive into the reboot as well. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about The Mummy, which came out in 1999, directed by Stephen Sommers, and stars our beloved Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, and John Hannah.
Where did you get this?
On a dig down in Thebes.
Jonathan, I think you found something.
There is an ancient legend of a place known as the City of the Dead.
We call it the doorway to hell.
Where the earliest pharaohs were said to have hidden the wealth of Egypt.
Are we going into battle?
There's something out there. Something underneath that sand.
They came to uncover its secrets.
Mummies, my good son. This is where they made the mummies.
They sought to unlock its treasure.
And then there was light.
Oh, boy.
What they did
Oh, my God. It does exist.
I think this may be the Book of the Dead.
was unleash a force unlike any the world has ever known.
Jason, give me your thoughts. I know this is like your childhood movie. You love this shit. What'd you think?
Yeah, I love this movie. I love this movie when I was a kid, and it was like one of those movies that like our friends would throw on every once in a while, and yeah, it was just like I felt like it was like always on TV too. It was picked up by like TNT, and it was just constantly on. And I think there's good reason for that because it's just like a fun, cool family movie. And Brendan Fraser, I mean, what happened to that guy, man? I mean, what happened to Brendan Fraser? He was just that
sold his soul to the devil, dude. Sold his soul to the devil.
That's right. Yeah. But he was like just like overly charismatic, like more charismatic Indiana Jones type in this movie. And then it's kind of like where we first really meet Rachel Weisz. Like I love it, and I think the CGI was really good. I mean, we kind of talked about it doesn't quite hold up to today, but at the time, like it was awesome. Like the sand effects and the face in the sand. I want to get more into that later. But
wait, so Jason, let's track back a little bit. Like, why did you love it? Like, is it the mythology of like Egypt? Is it like the history of Egypt? Like, what about the Mummy?
Yeah,
made you love it? Is it like the nostalgia, or like hanging out with like your best friends, watching this movie? What was it?
No, it was definitely like the Egyptian stuff. Like it was really cool. I mean, again, like the CGI was really good. So those shots where it depicts, I mean, I love anything that depicts like a particular time period, especially like old, like ancient time period. I just love how they can like, it's almost like fantasy and they kind of have to like build that world from scratch again. But yeah, so I love the way it looked. I like the whole story about him trying to resurrect Anaxunamun. Is that what's her name? Anaxunamun? Yeah, Anaxunamun. Yeah. And she's just trying to resurrect her the whole time. I mean, I just kind of, I like the story of it, and I like that it was like in ancient Egypt. And I also like that the movie itself is taking place like, what is it, the 30s or 40s? I mean, it's a timepiece on its own, and then it's like going back to even like more ancient times.
They don't give us like a specific time, but like one of the characters, like I think his name's like Winston or something, he mentioned like something about the Great War. So we can assume it's like after World War II or maybe in World War One.
Yeah. Okay.
In between.
Because I'm trying to think too, because like the second one's 10 years later, and I think like the second one, I forget what time period to say. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, I like that it alone is a timepiece or time period movie, and I mean, and then it's going back to like further ancient Egypt. So it's, I mean, I just like I like all of it. I like all of the movie. I like again, just the performances of it are kind of fun. I mean, I like the brother Jonathan. It's just really funny. Even though his jokes are kind of aged or dated, but
Totally. There's a lot of sexism in the movie that's really ages the movie a lot. But I mean, to your point, this movie had such a big run on syndication on TNT. They paired it up with The Scorpion King and The Mummy 2. And I remember it would just be like a 5-hour block of just this universe of The Mummy on TNT on weeknights or whatever. So it's a great like sit down and rewatch. But Sonny, I see you nodding your head over there. What do you think of this original Mummy?
It's just a classic. I was reading Rotten Tomatoes reviews, so it has a 57%, and Mummy Returns has a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that really surprised me because it's not like a fantastic, great, like it's not Indiana Jones, all right, which is actually what at least one comment had compared it to. And I maybe I have rose tinted glasses, but I don't know why anybody would expect that out of this movie. This movie is like, it knows what it is. It's a slightly campy, somewhat.
Do you think it knows what it? Do you think it knew what it was? Because this came out in May of 1999, so this was supposed to be a blockbuster for the summer, and I don't think any movies back then knew if they're being campy, especially at that release point in the the year.
But they weren't. It's almost a spectrum, right? On one end you have kind of campiness, and on another end you have like super seriousness. And since The Dark Knight, we've been in this phase of every movie has to be super dark and super serious, right?
Gritty.
Exactly, gritty. But so it's like it was campy, but that was The Matrix was maybe the first movie to actually take blockbusters out of the realm of camp. Right? Like Jaws, the original blockbuster, is a high budget B movie.
Right.
And most blockbusters, I feel like went along those same lines.
Well, I think like the story and everything is pretty serious. I think that Brendan Fraser's character is campy, or like they're playing off of a lot of like familiar, overly heroic tropes with him, because there are some pretty cheesy moments with him. So I think that's what gives it that like added feeling or flavor of campiness, because like something really cool happens and then Brendan Fraser shows up like holding a stick of dynamite with that smirk, knowing it's not going to go off. Just so you get that kind of thrown in to cut some of that tension. So I think that's where that comes from.
There is a lot of cheese in this movie, like you mentioned. I think I'm right. Maybe I'm. How do I express this? I'm there with you guys. I love this movie. This movie was great. I love this movie as a kid. I rewatched this movie for this podcast, and this is a fucking fun movie, man. The only thing that doesn't hold up for me is the CG, which is absolute trash. And then I felt like it was a little bit too long. This movie's like 2 hours long. I think that they cut off the second act a little bit. This would be a tighter movie and like more enjoyable, because there's points towards the middle of the movie and the end, I was like, can we like speed this up a little bit? I started getting a little bored.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
what parts? Like what parts?
Okay, so the beginning of this movie of character building, introduction to the scenery, the history, everything was awesome. That was freaking great. Well done. Like you really are in this universe. You're bought in. When the mummy starts like having to hunt down each of those guys to regain his body, that's when it slows down for me. I didn't want that to happen just so so the mummy could kidnap Rachel Weisz so Brendan Fraser can come back and save her. Like that middle portion could have been done better. And Rachel Weisz just gives herself up to the mummy, expecting that Brendan Fraser, he'll come save me. He'll be here. It's just like you said, I think that's pretty campy, but
but I think a lot of that part of that too, Akash, might be like they're trying to save money in the long run for the movie, because it costs less to do like that CGI on just that part of his face than it does to have a whole body of a CGI guy walking around. So I think they needed to take some time out of the movie for him to like regain some of his body, so that the guy doesn't have to be like in costume. He could just be like, you know what I mean? I think it was like.
Or the guys that opened up the tomb could have been like absorbed by the mummy right then and there, and we wouldn't have to have the hunt scene of the mummy chasing after the guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that adds an element, which we're going to talk about in the next mummy, because is that like a common theme for mummy movies? Is like a mummy's got to like suck out? Is that like a thing in lore for mummy? It's just.
I mean, mummy movies are the original zombie movies, right? So like to regain life, they kind of have to, I think, based on their lore. But to your point earlier, like I was thinking about this. Back when this movie came out, going to the movie was a bigger experience than it is now. This 2017. This came out 18 years ago.
Yeah.
When you went to a movie like this, studios are expecting multiple rewatches, and they want the price of the ticket to get your value back. So they made it longer to give you like more set pieces, more adventure, more bang for the buck. So I get that in that time space, if you like why this movie was constructed as it is, but for this movie to fit in the space that we are in now, it needs to be cut. Like 20 minutes of this movie needs to be cut.
Well, are you saying that because there were like sequels to it? Because I feel like
no, absolutely not. I'm reviewing this like independently.
Okay.
Yeah, but I also don't think you can evaluate a movie by today's standards, like an old movie by today's standards, right? Because you could almost
agreed.
Right, you could almost say something about how a movie should be edited differently about any movie in the past.
Right, and I'll feel differently about this movie in 20 years, Like it just like on my rewatch, this is kind of what stood out to me. And I mean, I don't want to trash this movie because I liked it. I mean, there's only positive criticism of this movie, but it's a really fun freaking movie, man. And the location shots are great. And this movie does what the new Mummy movie couldn't do. It was shot in freaking Egypt. Like the Mummy is like supposed to be in the desert. Like, yes, this is perfect. Like not in another city, right? So
yeah.
I don't know that.
This is awesome.
Well, I like the
like setting
I like the creatures. Oh, sorry, Akash.
Sorry, just to my last point, I meant that the setting of this movie was like in Egypt, air quotes. Like I don't know where it was shot, but it takes place in Egypt, right? So
yeah,
you can't say that for the new Mummy.
But I like the creatures and stuff that they came up with. Like I like the visuals, but I really like those bugs. Like I thought that those bugs were like a really cool recurring danger in the movie. You kind of get introduced to it in the very, very opening scene when you see him get mummified. But I just love that. And they kind of came to life. And man, I just remember as a kid that scene where it crawls underneath that guy's skin and you can see like a bump on his skin moving up his shoulder. Yeah, that creeped me out, and it was awesome. Like it was So I love that they had like little elements like that. And then watching it too, I was trying to point out some of the corniness that I probably overlooked when I was a kid. And one of the things about like these big action movies that they always I don't think do correctly is like setting up the romance. And like in the new movie, I think they did a horrible job of it. But in this movie,
that was such bullshit. Yeah.
In this movie, it was kind of like they kind of have an attraction for each other early. But it's cool that it kind of stemmed from the fact that she saved his life. So he's kind of doing these things to owe her a favor. So this relationship really stems from him, paying her back for saving him. And I kind of like that approach to like the main romance than just like, hey, we're in this together. We know nothing about each other.
We're the two hottest people around.
Yeah, we're the hottest ones in this cast.
So naturally, we should hook up.
Yeah.
You're totally right, Jason. This movie does character relationships so much better than the new one. Like that's just completely disregarded. I mean, we can get into the new one, but I think the motive of the new movie is not to tell stories, to do something else. And once we start reviewing that, we can get into that a little bit more. But like you mentioned, that everything in this movie is just like fun. It's a fun movie to watch. It's like really genuine, and it's a great like that you're talking about the bug. That still freaked me out. Like 18 years later, like that was a great, well done. Like I guess you want to call it a monster, whatever it is. So
yeah, and I think for a movie that got a sequel and a third movie, I mean, I think it stands off really well by itself. And then. And what's really cool is they did enough in the first movie that actually laid the groundwork to make a sequel. So I think it was like such a complete story on its own that that's the only reason I could get a sequel. So just kind of more kudos to, I don't know. Yeah, more kudos to the story writing, I guess.
Yeah, this movie did pretty well in the box office. I mean, I actually don't know what is considered well back in the day, but it cost $80 million to make and it grossed $155 million. So,
yeah, what was that? What was that for that back then? Was that a lot? Did it reel in a lot? Was $150 million a big?
I think so. I mean, this is like before like global markets or whatever. So I think this is just domestic. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to add is that the set pieces felt more like lived in. Like even though the movie did have a heavy reliance on CGI, almost everything looked like it was filmed on a location, right? If not a very nicely made set. But there were so many different locations that there were so many different locations that were unique in the sense of how they influenced the choreography of things that happened and action that happened. Sorry. It feels to me that a lot of the action really relied on having there been a well-designed and almost physical location to operate within, as opposed to like a green screened environment. Because you can, if you do CGI that far, a lot of times it can be done poorly, right? And this is the kind of movie that would be extremely susceptible to having it been done poorly. You know, for as cheesy as it is in other areas, it might just be cheesy in that one. So the fact that it almost kind of felt like what was the name of that Nickelodeon TV show that we used to watch? I'm sure that you guys watched Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Oh yeah.
It felt like, you know, like an adult-sized like hidden temple at almost every place that they were running around in. And I think that gives the movie a lot more presence and helps build a much thicker atmosphere for a movie like this than in the recent Mummy, right? Every location. Well, I don't know if we should start. You guys want to start?
Well, yeah, you're right. I think it's set from.
Jump into what you thought of the new movie, and then we can just start making our comparisons. Then,
Cool.
The Mummy 2017, starring Tom Cruise of Scientology fame, takes place in, you know, the synopsis is an ancient Egyptian princess is awakened from her crib beneath the desert, bringing with her malevolence grown over millennia and terrors that defy human comprehension. So
no, they don't.
that's essential stupid summary of the movie.
I comprehended it pretty easily.
What the hell?
Whatever's in there has been safely hidden for 2,000 years. This isn't a tomb. It's a prison. Nick! The hieroglyph said she was named Amenet, chosen to be Egypt's next queen. But her thirst for power led her down a darker path, one that had to be stopped.
Because of your actions, this ancient power has returned.
So this movie, obviously, as you know, stars Tom Cruise, Sophia Boletti, who's a baddie, Annabelle Wallace, who's the I guess the love interest in the movie, and is directed by Alex Kurtzman. We haven't heard of this guy because he hasn't directed anything else. This is his first directorial debut, but he's written some of our favorite movies like Star Trek, Into Darkness, original Star Trek. He's a producer on that. So he's been around good movies, but this is his first attempt at directing. And I think some of that is seen in the storytelling, but any of the shots or anything like that. But overall, you could see that. So Sonny, let's just jump in. What did you think of the new Mummy?
It's like the purest example of sacrificing quality for money, for in their attempt at creating a universe to compete with the Marvel universe, to compete with the other universal monster universe, like the big monster universe.
That's funny you say that. That's the first note I have on my notes as I was watching this movie. Sacrifice quality to build a shitty franchise.
It was blatant. Like they introduced Russell Crowe's character, who we don't give a shit about.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Sonny, in the first 10 seconds after you see what is it, Universal, you see it says Dark Universe.
Yeah.
Like it's on the screen. Yeah, it's on the screen. It says the Dark Universe. Like they've already set, like within 10 seconds of the movie, they're trying to set up this franchise or this.
Yeah, they didn't earn it. You don't get to just fucking declare a universe and expect people to give a shit, right?
Bro, you do that after the credits, right?
Right. Exactly.
The after credit scene.
Yeah, and it felt vacuous. Like I didn't care. Like, why is Tom Cruise in this movie? Why?
Because he's a producer, executive producer. That's why.
Yeah, but why? Right? you think bigger than that. Like what? who asked for a remake of The Mummy? Of the people who asked, how many of them said, "Oh, you know what? We want The Mummy, but like with Dark Knight grittiness. It's got to be like dark." And then who after that said, "Oh, you know what? Who'd be great to lead this? Fucking Tom Cruise." And
I think Tom Cruise was in a meeting with himself, asking and answering those questions to himself all at the same time.
But this isn't necessarily like a straight reboot from the movie we just talked about. This is like a different. I mean, the Mummy that like the Mummy from 1999, that was a separate movie or storyline, right? I mean, this is trying to introduce a whole new group of movies that came out like in the 20s and 30s. Like,
no, I completely get what you're saying on that end.
Mummy was a remake of those.
Yeah, but I think where it's like
99,
the first like 5-10 minutes of this movie is like a shot for shot, almost like
similar scene.
In essence, it's like the remake of the original one. You start off with like the history of who this character is. Like, what's the mummy's name? So I'm just gonna call her Sophia B because that's the actress's name.
Yeah.
Who this character is and like what she had done wrong, and she's being like in prison. Like,
it's similar stories.
Very similarly. So in that sense, you could think that it's a reboot of that universe, but because it was so poorly handled, I could see why you don't think that this is an actual reboot.
No, see, I think what it is that Universal's the distributor for both, and I think they will lose the copyright or trademark or whatever bullshit intellectual property law allows them to be have a monopoly on the idea of the Mummy and make movies about it.
Kind of like Spider-Man on Fox.
Precisely. And so and I think they are the ones who like have the creature from the Black Lagoon, King Kong, Godzilla, and others.
They hint at the creature from the Black Lagoon when they're walking through that lab or whatever with Dr. Jekyll.
Right.
You see the hand. So
Dr. Jekyll and Wolfman and Frankenstein, I think.
So does this theoretically going to exist? Like, is this the same universe then? Like the Mummy with Brendan Fraser, was that like just earlier, and this is just present day? Because is that why it's the same? I mean, like we were saying,
I think it's a literal
scene. The sequence was really similar. Even the setup, like her plight is really similar. You know.
I mean, I think it's a reboot, right? I mean, it's not a sequel.
Yeah, no, it's a plain reboot.
It's a plain reboot.
Got it. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. When I watched the trailer for it, I thought it was a fake trailer. I thought it was like a fan trailer because it was just like Tom Cruise running and then him spinning in the plane and like looking out with the girl like ripping off her parachute and then him like waking up in the bed. I thought it was a fake movie. I thought it was just like cutscenes from other movies. So when I found out that was a real movie, I could not believe it, and the actual movie delivered on my expectations from the fake trailer because it was just it was empty, like you said, Sonny. It was so hollow. There was nothing to it. There's no character that you take away from that movie. There's nothing that I look forward to in the next movie. I could really care less about. And Tom Cruise's powers are so ambiguous. Like what happened to him?
Wait, Jason, before you jump in, give us like a high level. I mean, I'm assuming based on what you said, you thought this movie was trash as well. But are you just adding to Sonny's points? Then this is a garbage fire for you as well.
Yeah, I mean, Sonny. I mean, it's a good movie to have on in the background. You know, or if you're flipping channels and you know you're doing stuff, it's good to have, and then you can kind of tune in and out. You know, there's not a whole lot to the storyline.
There isn't, man. This is like clunky storytelling. Like
it's so weird. It's just a weird way to tell a story too. And like, I kind of like the idea that he dies and comes back. Like that's kind of cool. But then why is his buddy who killed that guy on the plane and then tried to kill him? Why is he all like, "Hey, buddy, cool" after he's dead, and like blaming Tom Cruise for shooting him? You know, it was just so weird. He was
the only reason anyone else is in that movie is because Tom Cruise's character is too stupid to figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
That's so the main character, Jenny, Annabelle Wallace, like she does these exposition dumps during the movie, like when they're in the cave, when they're on the plane, just basically highlighting everything that Tom Cruise doesn't know. Then this zombie friend has to walk him through where to go to like progress in the story, right? Like the whole Tom Cruise character is a bumbling idiot, and he is only saved by sheer luck that his friend calls in an airstrike in the first movie.
Or first part of the movie. Yeah.
First part of the movie, yeah. And I'm trying to go through my notes here, but like, I'm pretty sure he got saved again by Russell Crowe's dudes in the forest right before the mummy's like about to kill him or take his soul or whatever. Like, this guy's an idiot. How is he doing what he's doing? Like, who walks into a tomb, decides to shoot the first thing you see? Okay, all right. Let's take a step back. This creature is so bad, right? Yet they leave a mechanism for her to be released. What are they? What? Why? So to start the movie off, it's just stupid right there. You know what I mean? And then Tom Cruise again adds to the stupidity by just look over there. That looks like it's connected. Let me just shoot that. And then it's a downhill slope. And I don't know how the mummy even gets control of his body by him just staring at her like sarcophagus.
Yeah. And like, why was he seeing stuff like back in time? Like, why was he like? I thought they were gonna reveal somehow that his like spirit was that guy's spirit or something. You know.
I mean, the writers of this movie didn't know how to tell you a story, so they put in all these easy outs on how to educate Tom Cruise's character on what's happening to him and why it's happening to him. It's just terrible storytelling.
Well, and I also like that they're going in the tomb, and like it's just that really classic. I mean, ever since Indiana Jones, this is how it is. It's like somebody goes in just for the treasure and somebody goes in for the history. And it's just like the guy wants the treasure, touches something he's not supposed to touch, and everything goes to shit after that. And like, of course, like in the first 3 minutes, that's how this movie starts.
Agreed. I completely agree with you. I mean, to me, like the only thing I liked about this movie was the airplane scene. Like, even though I knew what was going to happen, that was shot pretty well. Like that was like had me on the edge of my seat. It was really like well shot. Like I felt like my stomach was turning, like watching the plane like spin out, and then we don't even see the crash. It just cuts to white, and then it goes to the next scene with Annabelle Wallace's character talking to like the coroners about the survivors of the crash. But literally, that's the only part of the movie that I liked, and that was for maybe 15-20 seconds.
That was a really good scene though, and it's like so physically demanding for those actors, because I'm sure that apparatus was just like a spinning set, and that looked brutal. Like I felt tired after that scene, just from how much they were rolling around. Granted, that was a really good scene.
Which takes place at the beginning of the movie, and it's pretty much all downhill from there. It goes more and more of a roaring dumpster fire.
So what was with Russell Crowe? I don't get, why did they need that character? Like
he's
universe building.
I know, but just it's just
he's literally only in the movie to build this universe. He is like the head of, he's like Professor Xavier in this world, and like he's getting his group of good guys who are also bad, who have conflicts in their hearts on what to do, like to come save the world from badder guys. So
what are they, like some sort of Suicide Squad?
What a stupid idea to put a guy that constantly needs injections to be like in control of everything. That seems like
and have it be such a fucking process. Like this asshole should be like Bane, wearing a mask, continuously pumping that shit into his body. If he actually gave a shit about the people that he works with.
Good point.
And this idiot puts a mummy in the same room with all the weapons she needs to get her power back, like within 15 feet away from each other. And I think she should be good. And then perfect timing. Let me go through an episode right now to distract me from the actual bad guy escaping while I deal with this disease that I have with Tom Cruise. So, God, guys, I don't even know what to really. It was just bad.
Or the scene where she's like crawling, she's on the chains and she's trying to escape, and she does like a reverse Spider-Man on the way up, and it's just like that. I don't know. I rolled my eyes at that too. It looked so bad. I don't know why.
No, because it did look bad. That's it. It was just like very, very poor stunt choreography.
Right. So did you guys think the action was any redeemable at all in this movie? Did you I was bored. I was just bored during this movie.
There's a spectrum of or a scale of action and different dimensions on which action can be really good. So it can be like really expertly choreographed. It can be contextually new, so like something we've never seen before, like Hong Kong martial arts in The Matrix being like the West's first exposure to it, right?
Right.
Like by today's standards, it's like it's good, but kind of corny. But in '99, it was amazing, right?
Right.
Another big part is emotion. This wasn't original in terms of choreography. This was not breaking any new grounds in terms of choreography, and the rest of the movie sucks so bad that any action scenes kind of just felt like, yeah, so what? Like, we know he's gonna make it out, and we still don't give a shit, right? So
most of the action was just them running away from stuff.
I completely agree. It was like 100%. And I want to get into some comparisons, but between this mummy and the original mummy. But before we do that, can you guys tell me what the difference was between the she mummy stabbing him and him stabbing himself? Like, what was the difference between?
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Yeah, I don't think there was any difference. I think he could have let her. He literally could have let her stab him from the moment she got the dagger, and then just killed her anyways. Right? If that's how it was going to end up.
Right. So is this? Are we supposed to now believe that? Is this his redeeming arc, that he's not a selfish person? That's only out, and I don't want to give that movie an out because it never established that. Nothing gave us context clues of that happening at all.
Well, no, they're trying. That's what I think they were aiming at. The whole movie was just, it was supposed to be a redemption arc for him, because they pointed out on multiple occasions how he was bad but did good things, or he was selfish and then did, like, remember when he almost like drove off in the car without her, and then she gets in, she's like, you were gonna leave me over and over again.
Yeah, but I think that's like the cliff notes, and like I don't think any of it was deserved at all for the character.
No, yeah.
So it just, I guess that's why it didn't make sense to us. They completely missed the mark on that, and that was probably like the most important scene in the movies when he transitions into, get it? He's a mummy now, right? So,
yeah. So what? So she stabs him, and then the guy that she loved, will live in him forever.
And the demon that she makes a deal with. Yeah.
Okay, and then but him stabbing himself, he turns into a god.
Yeah,
how come she was upset about it when he did it? I mean, isn't that what she ultimately wanted, anyways? The whole movie, she's chasing him to stab him, and then he stabs himself, and she's like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" Like, isn't this this is what you wanted the whole movie?
Doesn't make sense.
Man, I don't even know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not missing out. It just doesn't.
I don't know. Okay. So this is where the comparisons come in. Like, you understand. So I guess you understand the original Mummy's like intention. So there was like a love story there that was actually built pretty well, right? Like, or at least established that he loved this lady so much to betray his pharaoh, and took her dead body, went up to where's that, Manuptau, whatever that city's called,
Hamunaptra,
etc. That's all built really well. This thing, we just see that she was threatened that her father had a baby with someone else, so she had to make a move and kill the father, right?
Yeah.
It's poorly done there. And another point I think is Rachel Weisz's character compared to the female lead in this movie had so much more depth.
Oh yeah,
and was actually a proper character, and like you saw her motivations, her emotions, and why she she's always dreamed about going to Egypt to be an archaeologist, blah 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 blah. This one, she just like shows up right when they call the airstrike, says that she slept with Tom Cruise, and
this guy fucked me and took my diary.
Yeah. And she's constantly like needing to be saved, and like she has no other role in this movie other than just the damsel in distress, which is a damn shame.
Well, I feel like she's supposed to be like an archaeologist, but Rachel Weisz's character, Evelyn Evie, she actually like demonstrates it a lot more. Like, you're a lot more convinced that she knows stuff. She was a librarian. She brings stuff up. She brings stuff up earlier in the movie that shows up later in the movie. You can believe it. And then, but this chick walks in to the tomb, and she's just like, "Oh my god, I know everything about it just on first glance." And then you don't hear any more mumbo jumbo from her later. I mean, she has that one moment where she displays she knows stuff. I don't know how they're in this like tomb no one's been in, and she knows exactly what everything's meant. It just wasn't believable.
No, it's because so I took note that in the first Mummy, the first two scenes, besides the opening Egypt in the past scene, the first two scenes are O'Connell's battle where he loses but then encounters the evil. And then Rachel Weisz's scene where she completely destroys the library, right?
Right.
Akash, you were mentioning how you felt like the movie was a little too long and kind of dragged on. I think this is a movie that was really well paced because of moments like those where, they could have just literally the movie could have started with her meeting her brother in the tomb, finding the key, going to the jail, meeting O'Connell, and him kissing her, right, and like setting up their relationship just through that action, right? Like, but by showing us even almost inconsequential things, you learn so much more about their character. You get to see them like in both situations, like in an embarrassing, compromising position, and see how they handle it. And you learn a lot about them, right? So you may not learn a lot more about Rachel Weisz's Evie's expertise in archaeology or whatever, but you still have you still know her, right? She's not just some rando spouting facts. She's this person that you've sympathized with already.
Which is great. I love that part of the first movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's precisely what this movie's lacking. It's just like, hey, it's like Hollywood saying, hey, we'll throw you these characters. They're cast by people who are funny or interesting in other things or look good. So just, eat whatever shit they say, and roll with it. And
this sequel completely misses the mark on what made the first one so good. It's about the characters and the universe that it builds. This is just like, all right, let's cut the shit. Let's give them a quick montage scene of what happened in the past, and let's just give them all these action scenes and all this. We want to put the Mummy on the screen for as long as possible because we have the budget to do so.
Right. This movie's called The Mummy, so naturally it should be about the evil mummy creature that's so fucking evil. And again, it's so evil. She's not even an antagonist of the show of the movie. She's just kind of like the bad person, right?
Right.
Yeah. But let's make the movie all about her, and then let's just have shit writing for everybody else. We know is going to triumph, but what difference does it make?
Yeah, I mean, in the original, when you think that Evie's going to get killed and stabbed, like you're at the edge of your seat. You hope that Brendan Fraser comes and saves her because you don't want to lose her. If the chick in this movie died, like you just be like, okay, I guess that sucks.
I didn't care that she died. She does die.
I did not. Yeah,
she dies, and I didn't care if she gets resurrected or not. Like it made no difference to me. Yeah, it's just like even the first movie. This new movie tries so hard to be funny, and it misses a mark completely. The first movie was so like they had scenes with Benny. Do you remember Benny? Like he was so freaking funny.
Yeah, Such a great side character.
He abandons him like on the first scene that you see him, which is hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
What a consistently like shitty character that was so fun and easy to hate. Right.
Yeah. Right. And it was awesome that he sided with the priest too. Like he was becoming resurrected. Like and then he pulls out all those different religious like emblems, and he's like trying to be religious. I love that.
That was hilarious. Yeah. And he goes full circle with that guy, and you see him die the way like in our eyes is probably the worst way to die. He gets eaten by those beetles, right? So like that even that minuscule character has like a full arc, and it's just like it ties up all the ends so loose and like doesn't hope to have. Like I don't think the first movie hoped to have a sequel to tell its story. Where I think the point of this movie is like, all right, we're gonna have like a whole universe. Like we can bring in characters and mix everyone in and make a universe out of it. And
it was totally the Force Awakens of universe building.
But maybe honestly, they may think because there's going to be sequels that they can kind of slow play the character development. But if that's the case, like. That's just so dumb. You got to devote your first installment to just like building these characters, so we actually care. But I mean, I do not care about this universe. Like, I could care less.
If Tom Cruise, and I think he is a mummy for this universe, why not spend more time to figure out like show us who he is, other than just like a bumbling idiot who's lucks out of every situation that he's been put into. Yeah. I mean. It just sucks. It's just terrible. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else to add?
No. I can't wait to see the next installment of this universe, though.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I can't wait to see what happens to Russell Crowe next.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to control his anger?
What a likable, immediately charismatic character, right?
So that fight scene was terrible, too, by the way. That fight scene.
Actually, you guys want to know the worst part about this movie?
Yes,
Wikipedia says that their budget was $195 million, but they made $400 million. That's the worst part. It still made a fucking lot of money.
Does it break down where that money was made? How much was that made overseas?
No, but I'll look it up.
Can you put that
It's like-
$1999 and see how it compares to the original?
It sucks that these
Probably more.
movies have like legs overseas because it's like complete trash movies, but they get renewed just because they do so well overseas, especially in the
Yeah.
Chinese market.
Yeah, they just like there's some parts of the world that just like seeing crazy action, which I
Agreed.
guess this movie was pitched at. But again, there was not a whole lot of crazy action in this movie.
Damn, domestically it only made 80 million, but foreign
Wow.
327 million.
Worldwide.
Yeah,
327 for the rest of
everywhere
the world.
else worldwide, 327. Yeah,
Wow,
Wow.
that's absolutely very.
but
telling.
it only made 30 million its opening weekend, which blows.
Which is terrible for a budget that big.
Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Disaster. So I mean, knowing Tom Cruise, there's going to be sequels for this movie. He's going to shove it down our throats.
Yeah.
They might as well
So-
team up with the Justice League and just let like those two burning trash piles just kind of burn together. You know, just put them together and see what happens.
Some people just want to see the world burn, and I think Tom Cruise is one of those people. All right, guys. If you have no more thoughts, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Check us out, guys, on nocampspodcast.podine.co. Catch me on Twitter, tweeting about stuff, movies, and our release schedule, etc., at Akash902. I think Jason doesn't exist on Twitter, and Sunny has a handle if he wants to shout it out.
I forget what it is. I'll shout it out next time.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.